You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon.
It is.
Today, we're going to be talking about the 7th and final serial of the 18th season of Doctor Who, Logopolis, which consists of 4 episodes that aired from February 28th, 1981 to March 21st, 1981.
Too fast!
And I want to give a special shout out to Steve Conway, actual radio pirate, for sponsoring this episode.
Thanks, Steve.
You can check him out on 8radio.com. And joining us today, we have 2 returning guests who have not been on at the same time together, but they've been on separately and with other people. It's a whole complicated mess. But first up, we've got Ashley Raburn.
Hey, great to be back.
Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about, I think I say this every time, but one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes.
It would be weird if you're like, I hate this one. I don't know why I'm doing it.
Yeah, I hate this one. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I'm super excited.
Sweet. We're excited to have you. Joining Ashley will be returning guest Brian Snape.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? It's good to be back, and it's good to be talking about the end of my one of my favorite Doctor's eras.
How have you been, sir?
Oh, you know, I've been here, and I've been there, and I've been up, and I've been down, and mostly I've just been present.
Being present is good.
Yeah. I think so.
I prefer being omnipresent, but that's hard to pull off.
You just gotta be everywhere, man.
It's very taxing. How are you, Toni?
I'm fine.
I just thought maybe I should check in on you.
Yeah.
Ever since I cured her of her hiccups off the recording.
With frightening messages.
If you don't, ask too many questions,
You won't get many answers.
don't prod too much into it, I'm doing good.
Yeah, that sounds fair. So you want to talk some Doctor Who?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's dive in.
They didn't ask us, did they, Ashley? They didn't ask us.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear him
Jeez,
ask us.
I know. We're feeling left out.
Are you guys ready to talk about Doctor Who?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Why the fuck not?
If we have to, I guess we gotta.
I forget. Do you guys have an explicit rating?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Jizz.
They do now.
You would not be the first person to say jizz on this podcast.
And I will not be the last.
Probably not. So let's dive right into Logopolis, the last ever, not the last ever Tom Baker serial. Last Tom Baker serial, but not the last Tom Baker appearance, I suppose.
Sure.
Episode 1, which I have called an infinite regression.
I call it Auntie Vanessa's shitty car.
I call it Logopolis episode 1.
Ooh. Going old school on us.
Yeah.
Wow. I like this guy. He's a rebel.
I just couldn't think of anything else. I could have said Tom Baker's last story, part 1.
Very descriptive.
It's the thing that's most important, really.
I don't know if the show's quite as aware of that as it should be. That it's Tom Baker's last
it doesn't seem super interested in being a send-off.
It's a send-off for a Doctor. I don't know if it's necessarily a send-off for Tom Baker, if that makes sense.
Well, that entire season just doesn't seem very Tom Baker because it's when John Nathan Turner decided that Doctor Who was actually a hard science fiction series rather than the, light science fantasy series that had been in the past. So,
but at the same time, he's doing things like beginning to put question marks on things and realizing that, hey, if you make them wear the same things every time, you can market things and sell more things because you don't have to worry about continuity. So while he's going hard sci-fi, he's also doing these things to sell product.
I never thought about it from that angle, the merchandising.
Oh, no, that's exactly why he did it.
I am a person who is against the whole question mark motif as a Doctor Who type thing because I think it's just too self-referential.
I'm hard pro question mark.
It's kind of like when they say, Doctor Who. and hilarity ensues.
How do you feel about like the Who-mobile, like the Who license plate?
Who won? I mean, yeah. I mean, I kind of give or take. It's more the idea of having question marks over every goddamn thing that was just annoying to me. Although I do have a nice affinity for Sylvester McCoy's umbrella.
Because that's a prop and not a costume, I guess.
Yeah. And it comes in handy during that cliffhanger in Dragonfire.
Spoilers.
Sometimes you just need to hang off a cliff.
Yeah, for no apparent reason. Anyway, speaking of hanging off a cliff, let's get into Logopolis.
So we start with something I don't know if we've ever actually seen on the show before, which is kind of surprising to me, which is we see an actual police box
Being used.
by a policeman. Has that been on the show ever?
I don't think so.
Why did it take him so long to think of doing that?
It was too busy being a spaceship.
Why did it take him this long to want to start fixing the chameleon circuit?
But we see a policeman using the police box, and then it goes all wibbly wobbly. I assume because that's the master TARDISing in.
Yes.
And he pulls the policeman in, and we hear evil laughter. We don't see the master visually for a good long while. We just hear his sinister laugh.
This motherfucker thinks everything's funny.
It's like the opposite of you.
Ooh.
That's true.
Tonight on the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon, Joe and Tony's divorce.
That's like almost every episode. I think this whole podcast is just a chronicling of the deterioration of our relationship.
Well, sure.
It's the opposite of marriage counseling.
So the other thing, the interesting thing about that, and I'm no expert, I'm trying to look it up real quick, and I'm not seeing it, so I could be completely wrong. But at this point in England, the police boxes were exceedingly rare.
Yeah, they were pretty much phased out with radio walkie-talkies.
Now, so the fact that there is one could indicate that it was a very rural area, or it could indicate that they just wanted an excuse to use a police box, because I think this was supposed to be modern to the time it was made, so it would have been 1980. Tegan actually references 1980 a few times, so...
Yeah, I think there's actually a line where the doctor says, like, they've fallen out of use, like, common usage, but there's one or two still around.
I think they were actually going to film where there was still one standing, but then I think it wasn't by the time they got around to filming, so they just dropped the prop one there.
And they all had the sad trombone thing when they discovered that it hadn't been standing there. Well.
So the first scene is something we've never seen, and then there's the next thing is also something we haven't had before, I don't believe, and it's introduced.
Not the first time that a policeman has appeared as in the first scene of Doctor Who, because it happened in an earthly child. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the first time we've seen an actual police box.
An actual policeman first appeared in an unearthly child. First scene. Thank you very much. It was played by a different policeman in the original pilot. It was a different actor in the original pilot, and they got a new one for the actual broadcast version.
Is that true?
Yes, that's not the same policeman from the original pilot, or not the same actor. Welcome to Digression, where we talk about regression in this podcast session. Can't you feel the tension?
You're running out of words.
No, I can just keep on if you want me to, but I think for your listeners' sake that they want us to continue with the episode. Anyway.
No, that was definitely the best part of the podcast so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, we should just end it.
Yeah, it's not going to get better from there.
And then the doctor falls, and then everything, and then he sits up, and it's Peter Davison. The end. Sorry, spoilers.
But the doctor and Adric are in this gothic area.
Oh, it's so good. It's so nice. I love seeing other parts of the TARDIS, and I especially love when it's just random places.
It's just all covered in vines and stuff. It's very atmospheric.
It looks relaxing.
And they talk about a lot of things here. They talk about the cloister bells,
which is the first time that they go off. That's the first time we hear them. It's the first time that they're a thing. I love the cloister bells because they're always effective for me. Like when you hear them in a trailer or something, I'm always like, oh no!
What are they supposed to signify?
Stuff's about to get real bad. They signify that shit's fucked.
Oh, okay.
Major trouble going on.
It's like a call to arms, right? Battle stations, right?
Battle station.
All hands on deck.
So a lot of these things that you see here was hugely inspirational for the TV movie years later, the Paul McGann movie. Because you hear the cloister bell again, you see kind of these other weird parts of the TARDIS, not quite as strange as this, but...
And you have the Master acting not quite like the Master.
Well, that's true too, but these scenes are things that even the new series do that cloister bell is like the same sound. When you hear it in the new series, it's the same sound. And I can't remember the first time we heard it in the new series, but I remember hearing it being like, that's it. That's the exact same sound. All the kind of the vine motifs and the fact that you've got these vines that are hanging out on the TARDIS as if it's a place that isn't gone to very often. That shows up in a comic strip in the Sixth Doctor era, which was a precursor to a comic strip called Emperor of the Daleks. But the Doctor has Davros like in the TARDIS hanging out, and they're in this area that they're in here, and there's like all the vines growing and everything. This is one of those things that kind of reoccurs in other media quite a bit as well. And I always like that.
Very influential scene. Establishing a lot of shit right here. And they also talk about entropy, which is going to be the theme of this episode. Serial.
Remember entropy. It's very important.
The entropy ties everything together.
Entropy forever.
We were watching this and someone said that entropy tied everything together, and it's like, which is generally the opposite of what entropy does.
Like a line from The Big Lebowski. You know, the entropy really brought the room together.
And they also talk about how they are not going to go to Gallifrey, and instead they're going to go to Earth.
Which, remember when I was excited about them going to Gallifrey all those episodes ago?
Yeah.
And someone had to be like, oh, Tony,
Not gonna happen.
they're not going to Gallifrey. That's not going to happen.
But don't you kind of think of it like it's almost like they go to they're wanting to go to Gallifrey, and then they just Monty Python it, and they're like, yeah, let's not go to Gallifrey. It's a silly place. It's just a model anyways. It doesn't matter. It's a panopticon.
Dun, 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 dun. Gallifrey, Gallifrey, Gallifrey. It's only a bottle. Shh.
They were originally going to go to Gallifrey, and then that script got chucked out, basically.
Ah.
They liked Gallifrey in this era, though. Well, the pre-John Nathan Turner era. They did.
So, Tegan.
Yes, we now get to Tegan and her Aunt Vanessa.
Whose car is so shitty.
One word and she's already on my tits. Ugh, I couldn't. In terms of companion introduction, I cannot think of a more annoying introduction than Tegan. In fact, I think this entire story, Tegan is like the most annoying Arthur Dent.
Oh no. Tegan's introduction, immediately I was like, oh no, this is me. Her like leaving the door open and being like, oh right, I might need my passport.
I might need my purse. I might need this.
I might need all of my shit. I left the door open. That might be me.
Tony identified with Tegan. I like her outfit, too.
Yeah, it's very purple.
Yeah, she keeps that outfit for a long time so they could sell more toys, which they never made, incidentally. But again, that was the indication that John Nathan Turner wanted.
I think it works, though. I think it's nice. So the Doctor says that he wants to go to Earth to measure a police box, and then they're going to go to Logopolis.
And they're going to fix the chameleon circuit.
The police box is the basis for TARDISes or something?
I think they have to get the exact measurements of a actual police box in order to have two police boxes. An excuse for having two police boxes in a scene.
Yeah, I don't entirely understand the reasoning or the logic behind it, but I'll buy it.
Much like Christopher H. Bidmead, I'm grasping at straws here.
But yeah, they need to get specific measurements of this actual police box because it will help with the chameleon circuit nonsense.
So is this where he shows the graphics of how the chameleon circuit works to Adric?
Sure, yeah.
This is where they show the giant pyramid, and then it's like, but this is what happens, and it just turns back into a police box. I love those like 2-bit graphics that they create. It's very reminiscent of what they did with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy TV series, except not nearly as good.
And not with actual computer graphics.
Right.
Although there is a Hitchhiker's connection to this story. Paddy Kingsland did the music for Logopolis. He also did the music for Series 2 of Hitchhikers as well as the TV series.
That makes sense.
And it's a very dark score that he has. Kind of go with the funereal experience of the story.
Some of it is dark, and there's also a portion of it towards the end, during the sort of the chase scenes, where it becomes almost like a cop show / porno.
Waka, waka, waka. But we'll get to that in hour 3 of this podcast, at the rate we're going.
Meanwhile, while the Doctor is showing Adric these honestly kind of pointless graphics, You can just say, hey, look, it can turn into other things. Tegan and Vanessa have broken down on the side of the road. They have gotten a flat tire.
The whole time we were watching this, you just kept saying, what happened to that car? What happened to it?
I want to know the backstory on why that car is so shitty. It looks like someone smacked right into the side of it. But also the whole time that they're sort of like working on the car, it's Tegan being like trying to take charge and stuff and talking about feminism, basically. And Vanessa just being like, I want a man to come by and help us. I need an errant knight. And Tegan like, just get down here and fucking help me.
But she also doesn't know how to do it.
Auntie Vanessa would not last 1 minute in the Outback, even if the extent of the Outback is Tegan's father's farm.
She's not going to last long on the side of the road here, to be honest.
This is also the first time we see the Watcher kind of watching them in the background, and that's who, the indication is that's who Auntie Vanessa waves at. She's like, I'm sure I just saw a knight errant right over there, and waves, and then it like pans over and you see the Watcher who was there and is no longer there.
And it's just like, I don't have any automotive experience. I'm sorry. I'm just I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm just watching. That's what I do. I'm just watching.
I'm the watcher, not the doer.
Yeah, I don't do anything. I'm not a knight errant. I'm just the Watcher.
It was bugging me so much that everyone was just like, hey, there's a guy over there. Anyway. And like, nobody seemed that interested in him. I'm like, that's a very creepy looking motherfucker just staring at me from across this highway. Is anyone gonna be like, that's creepy? They're just like, oh, there's a guy over there. He doesn't even look human.
There's always just guys hanging out. Just always guys, they're watching.
Watching.
Guys be watching. Basically, this whole time they're just working on the car, and there's like, oh, we gotta use a jack. I forgot about that. Oh, let's get the spare. Oh, the spare is flat.
Too.
Aunt Vanessa, what kind of ship are you running here?
Aunt Vanessa just gives a face that just goes, wah, wah.
Meanwhile, they completely fail to notice that another police box appears next to the first police box and then reappears over the first police box, knocking a bike over. I thought that was a neat little touch.
This bit breaks my brain. They materialized around the other TARDIS, and so it's inside. It's inside of it.
And then there's a TARDIS inside of that TARDIS, and there's a TARDIS inside of that TARDIS, and there's a TARDIS inside of that TARDIS.
How far are you gonna go?
And apparently there's a back door to the Doctor's TARDIS, because that's where Edric and the Doctor end up, coming from behind the TARDIS. That's the name of my Doctor Who fan fiction, coming from behind the TARDIS.
I've read it. I've read what you've got. You need to post a new chapter. Come on. I've been waiting for months.
You're waiting for that big Corporal Benton, Harry Sullivan love scene, aren't you?
Yes.
Righto, sir.
Before they even realize that there's a TARDIS inside a TARDIS inside a TARDIS, they do their measurements. And there's the Adric's on top of the...
Yeah, that shot's cute. He's just leaning on top of the TARDIS.
Yeah, he's just sitting on top of it, measuring it, and they're having their chit-chats.
Surprised the thing didn't collapse, as rickety as that thing has been.
Yeah, they just don't care about Matthew Waterhouse. They're like, throw him up there, who cares? If it falls, it falls.
The trick is not to look into the cameras. Great acting advice Matthew Waterhouse once gave.
While they're measuring it, they also discuss about the Logopolitans.
That was definitely it.
Yes,
you
the
nailed
people
it.
who live on Logopolis and how they do their computations, which is vocally. They will give the measurements to them, and then they will do all of their fancy computer work, but they do it by chanting.
Yeah, that's just magic.
That's that hard science fiction for you.
I've heard there's a hard sci-fi coming up, and Christopher Bidmead and J&T were very much about hard sci-fi, but everything seems more like fantasy, more magical than it has been. Maybe I'm wrong. It's like Tron, kind of. Tron seems like it's very sci-fi, but it's very fantasy magic, yeah.
Well, it's Disney. What do you expect? Wait till he hears about the black hole.
Speaking of black holes, there's a gravity bubble inside the TARDIS. And is that what causes the TARDIS within a TARDIS within a TARDIS? Or is that something else? Or
I love the way the other TARDISes are just dark. They're just dim and dull. Maybe that's the gravity bubble.
It gets progressively darker and the cloister bells ring slower.
I almost wonder if when they did this, they're like, you know what? we need like 2 more minutes in this story. What are we going to do? Let's just have Adric and the Doctor just keep going through other TARDISes every time.
And have Adric hang up the phone every time.
Every time. And let's see. I know we can waste like 2 minutes. Like, couldn't we just do that once? No, we need 2 minutes of it.
They also did the same thing because once they go in, the TARDIS disappears.
And you get the laugh, right?
And Tegan enters at the exact same time. Vanessa's like, call for help because everything's fucked on this car. So she enters, and as she enters, the TARDIS disappears. And then there's just a lot of shots of her like wandering around being like, I'm lost!
My favorite part about that is the fact that she was going to roll that tire with one hand, like 2 miles up the road to the convenience station that they had seen before, and she's like rolling it. There's no way she was ever going to do that.
Not in heels.
Not right. Like, she's rolling it, and it's this flat tire, so it's like round, flat, round, flat, round, flat.
She couldn't pick it up because then she'd get dirty.
So luckily she saw the police box, and she'd call someone.
The Doctor and Adric are getting deeper and deeper into these TARDISes. Tegan is lost inside the TARDIS.
The first one.
The first one. And then the Master comes out. It's a POV Master shot of attacking Vanessa, basically.
Anti-Vanessa.
Anti-Vanessa.
I'm sorry, Auntie Vanessa.
Auntie Vanessa.
Yes.
Did I get it, Daddy?
Auntie Vanessa. I know your father. He would be offended if he considered me your dad.
I didn't say you were my dad. I said you were my daddy. There's a distinct difference.
That is true.
The Doctor gets tired of going down through TARDISes, I guess, and exits the TARDIS and bumps into a detective.
Played by George Thomason, who was in A Fish Called Wanda as Tom Georgeson. No, is it Tom Georgeson plays George Thompson? Yeah. Anyway, he's in A Fish Called Wanda. That's the only other place I've ever seen that actor. He plays the ringleader of the heist at the beginning.
Oh, okay. That's a great movie.
Oh, it only gets better from here, folks.
And he questions the Doctor. He's like, hey, I got some questions for you. Come look at this car. What's up with this car? And inside the car are a shrunken cop.
Are just two
and
little
a
dolls.
Shrunken Auntie Vanessa. They're just dolls. Like, we've had this shrunken effect before.
Yeah, this is by far, by the way, like, my favorite weapon on this show. Because sometimes the people don't die, and they're just very small. They're just very small, alive people.
The tissue compression eliminator.
I feel like before, when they did it, they just filmed them on, like, the people on CSO and then shrunk them. But this one is just dolls.
This is the second time that this has been used. Third time, I mean, that's been used. It was first used in Terror of the Autons and never seen again until The Deadly Assassin.
I think The Deadly Assassin was a toy as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think the first one, though, was CSO. When he's, like, in the lunchbox.
Yes, first one was, yes. That was Gooch. Yes, Gooch was CSO'd into the lunchbox. Phrases my dad never said.
But that's the end of episode 1. Tiny people.
So he did escape from Traken.
And we are now into episode 2, The Pharaohs Project.
Episode 2 opens, and Adric is trying to cause a distraction to get the Doctor away from the detective, and he picks up a bike, and his immediate thought is, I'm gonna throw this on top of me.
It worked.
That was just the crew doing it off screen. No one liked Matthew Waterhouse. They just chucked the bike at him.
Poor Matthew Waterhouse.
So, yeah, he pretends to have crashed his bike. That seems to work.
Help! Help me! I can't get this bike off me. I'm so weak. So, Adric creates a distraction, and the Doctor and Adric jump into the TARDIS and take off. Only to discover, dun dun dun, the other TARDIS is gone.
They have to jettison Romana's room before they can leave, though, because it's, like, stuck. And that was very sad. Where did it go?
It's just floating in the time vortex.
Romana's bedroom is at a farm with your puppy.
Meanwhile, Tegan is still just wandering through the TARDIS, getting more and more lost and more desperate. And she's also very like, I want to talk to the manager. I'm going to give the pilot of this ship a talking to. I do like that, though, that she's very immediately like, this is a ship. A spaceship, probably.
I need to talk to the pilot.
I need to talk to the pilot. And also,
I'm giving the
chew
worst
him out.
Yelp review.
Yes.
Well, and that, I think she's just going with what she knows. She's an airline host and is going to be, working for an airline. So she probably is like, oh, this is a ship, so obviously it has a pilot, and I want to talk to that pilot, damn it.
Where are my peanuts?
I do like the way that she connected that. She's using these skills that she's learned. She's like, oh, this is a ship. So like you say, there's a pilot, there's someone in charge, and she's using those skills that were developed in her training and those things. So I actually thought that was pretty neat. I've always liked that idea.
I do also like there's this moment where, after wandering around like over and over again, she just sort of loses it and starts breaking down crying. And she lets herself cry, and then she's like, okay, now I just am gonna have to try again. Like, she calms herself down and tries again. And that's when she finally runs into some people.
That's a while off, because
yeah.
we got a bad time in this episode.
This whole thing, this could have been a two-parter. I want to talk briefly about the relationship of Adric and the Doctor, specifically the Fourth Doctor, because we get, 3 serials with Adric and the Fourth Doctor? No, I guess 5, because you've got the 3 in Space. You've got Keeper Tarkin, and you got Tarkin. That's a completely different thing.
The Keeper of Fran Tarkington.
And then you have this one. So I think Adric was really designed to be a companion for the Fourth Doctor, and he actually works pretty well. Where he really falls down for me is later when he becomes a companion of the Fifth Doctor, and that's the thing I think it's important to remember. And I'm hoping I think we are getting them. We get some Adric and Fourth Doctor audios at some point, because I really want to see more of those stories where it's just Adric and the Fourth Doctor, because we don't really have those. We don't really have those stories, because they had Romana and then Nyssa and then Tegan and Nyssa. As much as people dislike Adric, as much as people have issue with him, I think he works really well with the Fourth Doctor.
One-on-one, I agree.
Right. So I think what they never gave him the chance to do is be that one-on-one companion, because at this point they already wanted to get rid of Tom Baker, and they were going to bring in these other things, and they wanted this big ensemble cast, very similar to the very earliest days of Doctor Who, and they were trying to kind of almost do the soft reboot with that, but they had to kind of work Tom Baker out, and in effect, I think that we really lost that one-on-one Tom Baker, Adric kind of back and forth that we could have gotten, and they never got back to that. So it is kind of neat to see that one episode kind of Tom Baker and Adric, and now we get Tegan, and she runs in, and I don't know. I never thought Tegan never really worked for me. I've never been a huge Tegan fan. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my thought there.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with Adric yet. I know that's what everybody that's said is like, yeah, it comes with the Fifth Doctor. It's just like his dynamic with the Fifth Doctor doesn't really work. But I think he's been fine so far. And I think he does do really well with Tom, when it's just him and Tom Baker.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. And I don't think we were really given a lot of that. That's what I'm saying. I'm really hoping Big Finish does. And like I said, I think it's coming. Some Adric and Tom Baker audios.
I think they're doing Romana and Adric and K9 audios with the...
maybe, yeah. Eventually they'll get to it, hopefully.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Adric and the Fourth Doctor on their own would be a really good series. I don't know how you would fit it into continuity, though. I don't know how Big Finish does it.
I mean, I think you could do it between... It could be done. I mean, Big Finish does it all the time, so figure it out. Yeah.
Big Finish, we love shoehorning.
But the Doctor gets a message from Traken, and he figures out that the Master is alive, and that he's Tremas, and then that's finally a thing.
Yeah, he pieces a lot of stuff together by himself, too. He's just like, well, obviously this happened, so it's this, and this.
Well, it's the kind of thing where it's like, we already know,
yeah.
So we don't really want to waste a lot of time watching the Doctor figure it out when he's supposed to be smart anyway.
The Doctor saw the miniature people, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of a calling card. The line he says is, so he did escape from Traken.
But he pieces together that Tremas has gone missing, so he pieces together that,
right.
So that
specifically
must be
that's who
the
he
Master
is.
took over his body.
That's what he figures the other TARDIS is the Master's TARDIS. So they're going to materialize underwater and open up the doors, which doesn't go really well because they land on a boat. Miscalculated a little bit.
It's a good reveal, too, because, like, they open the doors, and you still see, like, the wave, like, the reflection of water on them. So you're like, are they underwater? And then they pull out really wide, and you see that they're on a boat.
Then we get more of the Watcher hanging out, watching, doing his thing.
He waves at him this time, though.
And as I say, somebody actually bothers to talk to him.
That would be the Doctor.
The Doctor goes and has a chat.
We are not privileged to hear this chat.
I do like what he says when he comes back, when he's talking about, he's like, I've looked into the future a little bit. It's not good.
And he doesn't tell Adric who it is either.
But he's decided that because he's gotten some information, they're just going to go ahead and go to Logopolis, which they weren't before.
Because why not?
Gotta move the plot along.
It's like, this is the title of the story. We may as well get there eventually.
Logopolis looks cool. There's a big antenna deal, and I don't even know what, it looks like bones.
Yeah, they're like the caves, right?
Yeah.
Well, it reminded me a lot, I mean, I know this is a modern thing, but it reminded me a lot of the kindergarten from Steven Universe.
Yeah, where there's just kind of there's holes in the wall where people are hanging out and doing their chanting thing.
And everyone is really old and has weird hair.
His weird brains on the back of their head.
I spent so much time trying to look at those, but people would turn around and I wouldn't be able to get a good enough look at them. Were they brains?
They look like brains.
They creeped me out.
That's not a good place to keep your brains.
No, they're inside for a reason.
Tell that to an ood.
Don't be so oodist.
So the Doctor's plan pretty much is to leave Adric there because he knows things are going to get dangerous. And Tegan has finally found her way out.
She's finally bumped into the Doctor and Adric.
Welcome to the plot, Tegan. So then we meet the Monitor, who I immediately dislike. He's just very smug and very annoying.
Well, he speaks highly of you.
But he's sort of the main guy. He's in charge, and he tells the Doctor that he'll take a look into solving his little problem. Rude!
Soon to be a little problem.
Here's my problem with the Monitor, is the actor looks almost too much like Anthony Ainley.
I was thinking that the whole time!
And so he's not really well cast in that way, because he almost looks too much like the other actor that's going to show up and be like the main villain in 10 minutes.
Speaking of trying to address the Doctor's little problem, the Master goes ahead and smushes, dollifies a couple of the people who chant, and that messes up the numbers. That messes up the...
Yeah, because they're doing they've given the measurements to the Monitor, and they're doing the big...
It's like a big group
computational chant
Yeah.
thing.
What I'd like to point out is that Tegan ends up on an alien planet and doesn't even bat an eye.
Doesn't even care.
She's mostly just angry and still like, I want to talk to the manager. And I have to be like, shh, we're on another planet.
My name is Tegan. I want to talk to your manager.
I mean, as we go forward, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, she also, has met the Doctor and has been with him for all of, 3 minutes. And I understand she sees him as, her ticket home, but, man, she really cares about him to have met him for, 3 minutes.
This is the only way I'm getting home. Somebody help me.
Yeah, but even that doesn't, I mean, it's not, it doesn't come across that way. It comes across like, oh, no, we need actual care. But you don't actually care. So, I don't know. I'm making assumptions, but that's what I do, right?
I think that's down to the stellar acting ability of Janet Fielding myself.
Perhaps.
I said that too fast, so it sounded like I was saying Janet Fielding myself. I apologize.
I feel like a huge problem in this serial is that, her fulfilling the companion role, it's a lot to introduce a new companion and say goodbye to a Doctor.
Yep.
And so
And really, we're introducing two companions, kind of, because Nyssa was, she was in the last serial, but not, a tremendous amount.
Right.
And, she wasn't, coming along.
You're not saying it the right way. You have to say, Nyssa!
Nyssa! Auntie Vanessa!
And Adric sees her for the first time on Logopolis. Nyssa! Oh, my God, that just goes right up my back.
But yeah, you run into this scenario all throughout this serial where it's you need to have the companion care about the Doctor, but she doesn't. But she doesn't have enough reason to yet.
And also, she doesn't really do much when she's there. She seems a little superfluous at times.
And you need to have her be sad, because, like, this is the Doctor's last serial. But there's no reason for her to be like...
this man I met 5 minutes ago.
There's no reason for her to be in this serial at all. They could have done this in the next serial or the one after that. It was kind of this JNT master plan, and I think it kind of fell flat.
It's too much.
So, because the computation got messed up, my favorite thing happens. The TARDIS starts to shrink.
With the Doctor inside, which never happens again in the series, ever. Oh, wait. Sorry. Flatlines.
Oh, man. I got to tell the guy who wrote Flatlines that was one of my favorite bits in all of Doctor Who. And he was like, thanks. That's it. That's the story.
Jamie Matheson.
Anyway, yeah. That's the end of episode 2, basically.
Yeah, I want to jump back real quick and just point out one thing so that my title makes sense.
Okay.
The computer, the area where they're like working on the computers, which the Doctor is also like, what do you have computers for? He's like, we work on other shit. We don't just only do chanting. But the Doctor realizes that it is a perfect replica of this place called the Pharaohs Project
on Earth.
That will become pertinent in the last episode.
Got it.
There's a really funny bit too where like they're saying what it's about. What it means, and it literally means like lighthouse, right?
Yes.
Adric's like, cool. What's a lighthouse?
What's a lighthouse?
But the Pharaohs Project sends signals into space trying to find extraterrestrial life.
Interesting bit about that is back in the day when I would get Doctor Who magazine, and I would look at it, and there was a band that would advertise their stuff in there, and they were called the Pharaohs Project, and they would do like kind of I don't think it's the right word, but like techno kind of mixes.
Electronic?
Yeah, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. My head is not working today. Yeah, like electronica kind of stuff, and they would do mixes of Doctor Who songs and other songs, but they would always advertise the album in the Doctor Who magazine. So I always think of those two things together.
Is it a real thing, or is it a made-up Doctor Who thing?
That satellite dish is based on a real satellite dish. I don't know if it's quite as large as they portray it there. The special edition of this, they played it in the theater about a year ago now, when they put out the Blu-ray of this season, and there's a special feature that was on I think it's on the Blu-ray, but it's also in this, it was on the theater. And Tegan, the actors, Janet Fielding and Sarah Sutton, go to the actual satellite, and they do this like non-fictional thing about this satellite dish, and they kind of say like, remember when we filmed this here and there and here, but the satellite dish was a model, but it was right there the whole time, and all this stuff. So it was kind of cool. I mean, because there's a legitimate place that works the way this did, but a lot of the stuff a lot of the footage that was shown was a model.
But was the Pharaohs Project, was it a real project, or was it no?
No, not the actual Pharaohs Project, but the actual satellite dish was real. I don't know. The Pharaohs Project is something for Doctor Who.
There is an actual Pharaohs Project, but it's about something else entirely. I just Googled it. It's about identifying problematic chemicals. That's not the same thing at all. But that was the end of episode 2. We are now into episode 3, which I have called 3 Tiny Men in the TARDIS. That's my shout out to 3 Men and a Baby.
Okay.
I thought it was your shout out to 3 Men and a Boat.
It was my shout out to 3 Men and a Little Lady, the sequel to 3 Men and a Baby. So the TARDIS has shrunk, and they carry it out through the hallway of caves, including in one of the caves is the Master, played by Anthony Ainley. The first time we see him. And the motherfucker says, Doctor, I finally cut you down to size.
Just the worst.
You get it because I made you smaller. I shrunk you down. You get it.
He's like the master of dad jokes. You know?
And so they put the TARDIS between these two projectors, these sonic projectors, to sort of stabilize it. And the thing is like, it's like, oh no, we've shrunken the Doctor and it's bad. But I'm like, the Doctor's been shrunk like 4 times by now.
Yeah,
you should be used to it.
It just happens sometimes.
It's happened to 1. It's happened to 3. It's even happened to Tom Baker before. So the Adric and the Monitor sort of start running through the numbers, trying to figure out what went wrong. And they're like reading off a piece of paper and going from cave to cave. Like, what's your number? What's your number? What's your number?
Adric's bad at it, by the way.
Yeah, he keeps fucking it up. And the Monitor goes, no, it's A05.
Sorry. Sorry. I know, I'm sorry.
And then finally he was like, no, I'm right. Come on, give me credit here. I'm right.
It says this right here, and it's wrong.
Stupid monitor.
So they find the error, so they go to the corresponding cave hole, and inside these 3 cave holes are some, dolls of the Logopolopitans. The Lollygopolopitals.
Logopolitans? Logopopins?
The logistically small people.
Distinctly minty. No, I'm sorry. That's Blackadder. My bad.
And so they figured out what the error is, so they write up the correct numbers on a piece of paper, and they have to show it to the doctor, and Tegan's like, finally, something I can do! And she holds up the paper to the TARDIS. And then the next shot, she fucking walks away from it! And she's like, oh right, I gotta go back and put it back up.
Her attention span is so small.
And then she tries to be like, also, I'm very forward-thinking. This place is a sweatshop.
Ah, yes. and the monitor goes, what's a sweatshop?
It's a shop where people sweat a lot.
You're right. We should do something about this.
That really doesn't go anywhere.
No, it really doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It's just like we're trying to establish our character and doing a bad job at it.
Sure. Her woke is a joke.
Nissa's here, by the way. We haven't said it.
Nissa!
Her and Adric are doing whatever.
Nissa!
She hears someone saying that, and it's the master, but she thinks it's her daddy, because they look the same. She doesn't even say, like, hey, did you cut your hair? Did you get a shave?
Did you dye it?
I think she does say, you look younger, but...
Are you having a mid-Trocken crisis?
Get a new anti-aging cream? You look great.
Yeah, this is awesome. I know you're sad about, your wife dying and everything, but, come on, this is a bit of an exaggerated response.
And then he's like, you're my favorite daughter. I got you this bracelet.
It's a Fitbit.
Wear it always and think of me kindly.
What I like is when she finally sees him and he just is laughing. He's going, ha, 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 ha. Then he just kind of crooks his head like, ah.
He's not very good at hiding his evil either. And she's not like that suspicious at all. She's like, Dad's acting a little weird.
Like, I wonder how he got off the planet. It's never really addressed. It's just like, oh, you're here too. What a coincidence.
Did that guy in the white bring you as well?
It's like a family reunion.
The Doctor has fixed the TARDIS and he grows back into a real boy. And then the first thing he does is like, oh, Tegan, your aunt's dead. There. And then walks away.
He does it in like the worst way possible. Oh yeah, people have died. And Tegan's like, people died? And the Doctor's like, oh, yeah.
Everybody who has an aunt, take one step forward. Not so fast, Joveka.
Then the Master just shrinks some more dudes and steals those sonic projectors and uses them to sort of freeze everyone. Stops them from working on their computations. And Nissa, meanwhile, is like, I hear something. And they're like, I don't hear anything. And she's like, exactly.
Oh, snap.
Everything has stopped. Logopolis is silent.
God, I love the Master episodes because this bitch is so stupid.
He comes in and he's like, I've frozen all your people and I want to know all your secrets before I turn them back on.
Well, it's like, guess what? Now the whole universe is broken.
Way to go, Master.
Idiot.
Jerk.
They're like, it's going to kill all these people. And he's like, maybe.
Nah.
Because Logopolis is the keystone of the universe. They're keeping the universe going or some shit by their chantings.
Yeah, we've passed the point of entropy a long time ago.
I mean, we find out that in the last episode of the Fourth Doctor, or last story of the Fourth Doctor, the most important place in the universe is this little quaint place with these old dudes that live in caves and chant.
It's not Zaphod Beeblebrox. Not the most important thing in the universe. Because Joe and I have a hitchhiker's background, and we both have to throw in as many hitchhikers references as possible.
To be fair, Zaphod Beeblebrox is only the most important person in the universe in that side universe that he stepped into by going out the window instead of through the door.
Oh, boom! Pedanted! Oh!
He switches off the silence eventually, and he's like, look, it's fine. And then, like, it's still quiet. And it's because everybody's fucking turned to dust.
Just the world is crumbling.
Everything's falling apart. The universe is falling apart.
Almost as if entropy is taking place.
Remember that word, boys and girls? Entropy.
Remember when we said that was important earlier?
entropy. Entropy.
And the Master thinks this is some sort of trick and tries to make Nyssa kill the Monitor. Because he also, like, made Nyssa, like, strangle Adric, and because he's got that bracelet on her and it makes her, like, her hand evil. Which is supposed to only control her hand, but she doesn't, like, put up any resistance, like, with her face or anything.
No, she definitely walks towards people, too.
Yeah. And she just strangles people, and it's like, I'm controlling her hands.
The hand's pulling her.
But, like, her face is like she's doing an evil face. And it's like, why isn't she going, no, don't make me do this?
Acting is hard.
But she can't kill the Monitor because it just stops working because his device entropies. The device just falls apart. They sell that by showing you a little piece of it that has, like, a overlaid effect on it. And basically they say the universe has passed its sell-by date, and like a while back, like we're past, everything should be fucked up. So they open, because we're in the universe is a closed
shit, that
system.
happened for real in 2012, didn't it?
The Mayans were right.
So the universe is a closed system. Entropy has fucked it all up. So they had to open up basically portals to other universes so that the entropy had somewhere else to go. Because fuck those other universes. And they needed a place to funnel off the excess entropy. Hence the charged vacuum embointments, which is the CVE's front that led to E-Space.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, not a lick of it.
I like chocolate.
It's explaining the whole E-Space trilogy, basically.
Okay.
That's how they got in there, is through one of these CVEs, and that's been opened up to let entropy through, to have someplace to...
Okay, question though.
Yeah.
Does that mean the world that Adric came from is dust now?
Yeah, who gives a shit? But because the Master did this dumb plan where he silenced everyone and they fell to pieces, that's closed off the CVEs. And
I love how pretty much immediate, like, the whole part of this episode is just the Master being like, no! It was a good plan! And everyone being like, no, it wasn't. Everything's broken now. And he's like, you guys are lying because you're jealous of how good my plan was. That's what's happening.
You know, in modern times, we'd call the Master an incel.
So the Doctor's like, there's only one thing left to do. I gotta team up with the Master. And everyone's like, what? This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. And then the Doctor gets all grumpy and just starts ranting about how he never chooses his company.
It's like, none of you guys are my friends!
You just showed up one day and stuck around for some reason. I hate all of you.
And Tegan, you just showed up today. I can't even get rid of you.
You literally just got here. You don't get a vote.
So the TARDIS arrives, and he puts all the companions on it. It's like, you guys go away and be safe while the Master and I share a final romantic embrace. And the Master's like, you ready to do this? And the Doctor's like, if I gotta. And they shake hands. And that is the end of episode 3. And we're now into episode 4, the last one, which I've called The Bell Tolls for Who?
Who? Oh, I get it. That's clever.
You could also call it The Moment Has Been Prepared For.
I like that one.
Oh, yeah, that's so much better than Joe's.
I'm just thinking the cloister bells and the bell tolls for whom? For whom the bell tolls?
Who? The bell tolls for Whomst.
Whomst. Dr. Whomst.
Dr. Whomst in an exciting adventure with the Logopolis.
Oh, Tegan actually got a Doctor Who joke in this serial. Doctor Whoever you are. Is that what she said?
She does.
Yeah.
She can't even get the joke right.
Yes, he's the Doctor, but Doctor whom is it?
Doctor, what's your name?
Dr. You?
The Doctor and the Master have teamed up. They're going to go look for the Monitor. Tegan leaves the TARDIS to go find the Doctor because he's her ticket out of this place. Even though presumably, like...
They're about to fuck off in the TARDIS.
Right. I don't know where she thought the TARDIS was going to go.
Or does she just like, I believe in the Doctor now. Because of the minimal The only interaction I've had with him is he told me my aunt was dead.
That's pretty much it.
And he kind of put an arm around me when he said it.
Kind of.
Those 5 seconds of sympathy meant the world to me.
The TARDIS goes wherever the TARDIS was going. None of the 3 people who were supposed to be on the TARDIS are from the same place, so I don't really know.
Well, they're going outside of time and space.
Oh, that's right. Yes. The Monitor is working on the CVEs. This is stuff that Joe says makes sense.
He's making them permanently open.
Sure. The Master comes up with another plan. It's still not great. The Monitor... What happens to the Monitor?
He disintegrates.
But just because of entropy?
Yeah.
He just entropies away.
Like, they CSO part of his body out, and he's like, oh.
At this point, the Master's like, fuck that. Like, that's how little it took. He's like, okay, I have a plan. I can fix it. One person dies, and he's like, no, actually, I'm leaving.
That's it. Fuck it. I'm out here. Bye-bye. Play me off, Piano Cat.
Do you want me to, this bit's a little complicated.
Yeah, you're going to have to do all the technical stuff because I was just like, sure.
They've got the computer parts, right? They got the computer that the Monitor was working on to open up the CVE. And the project is still on bubble memory. It's not like entropying for whatever reason. So, but they can use that, but they need a new computer. So they're going to take it to the one that this computer is based on. They need to go to Earth, to the Ferris project, plug that in, and then they can point it at the CVE and open up the CVE.
And then the universe won't fall apart.
It'll just decay into other universes.
Which is fine, because we don't care about those other universes.
Exactly.
Fuck those universes.
It's just full of other Adrics, you know?
Right.
And lion people.
And louder Tegans.
The Doctor met Adric once and was like, nothing good comes from E-Space, actually, so...
Yeah, but Romana, the future president of Gallifrey, is there.
Oh, that's true.
Good point.
And K9.
And K9. So they go to find the Master's TARDIS. The Watcher takes the TARDIS out of time and space, which we said. Meanwhile, the Master has, like, tried to get into his TARDIS and leave, but, like, a building has collapsed on him. And so the Doctor has to rescue him. And the Master's just like, oh, thanks. Like, and the Doctor's like, yeah, don't mention it, I guess.
Bit of help here.
The Doctor and the Master go back to the Pharaoh's computer room so that they can do some computery stuff.
The one on Earth, yeah.
There's that one guy there who's listening to music. It's like the Doctor and the Master's like, I'm gonna kill him. And the Doctor's like, no, you're not gonna kill him. For fuck's sake. Can you go 5 minutes without almost murdering somebody, please? And the Master's like, no, we cannot. I'm bored. Adric finally gets a chance to talk to the Watcher. We don't get to hear this conversation either. They go to Earth.
They say you gotta go to Earth.
They gotta go to Earth. So again, Tegan could have stayed on the TARDIS and gone home, and it would have been fine.
She's plucky, but she's not smart.
But while they're outside of time and space, that is when they're looking at the monitor inside of the TARDIS, and they can't see Traken because Traken has been destroyed.
Yeah, whole swaths of the universe is just
disappearing.
I read somewhere this is like the highest body count technically because it just wipes out huge chunks of the universe.
And it doesn't get like put back, right?
I don't think so.
Bummer.
We cleared out some hard drive space really of the universe. You know, it just makes me think, like, there's all these serials where the Doctor goes planet to planet and, like, saves people. And, like, how many of those planets that he saved just got wiped the fuck out right here? Like, oh, we set up a new government on Traken. Everything's great in Traken. Bye, Traken.
Actually, we're all dead now. Everybody does end up back on Earth. Okay, you're gonna have to explain this stuff, too. Anything to do with CVEs, you're gonna have to explain.
They've plugged in the information into the computer to blast a thing to the CVE to open it up.
To open them back up. Okay.
Yeah, they've plugged that into the computer, but they have to go adjust the antenna, which they have to run across to get to.
The important thing that you need to know is that they climb up very high.
I'm just doing the music.
That cop porno music.
I feel like I'm adding very little to the podcast outside of comedy relief.
You're good. We need that.
Yeah, otherwise it's just me reading a Wikipedia entry, so...
Yeah, I'm obviously not adding anything, so... Yeah.
We know the secrets. Ash, I feel for you, bro.
I'm here for the recap at the end, so I get to express all my feelings and all of that, and so I'm good.
The Doctor has to stop the Master from killing another person.
Yeah, the Doctor throws his weapon away.
In the process, he alerts several guards.
And in the process of this, the group of plucky teenagers keep hiding from the guards and keep trying to like distract them and move them here and go here, and yeah, so we do have a group of plucky teenagers, which is interesting, or nearly teenagers.
Plucky.
Master gets his weapon back anyway, and then they actually make it to the TARDIS, and they TARDIS to the antenna.
Well, the Master TARDIS, the Doctor just gets there normally.
Oh, that's right. He has to climb. He has to get there the manual way, like a loser. So the Master takes advantage of being there first by just basically getting on a loudspeaker and being like, hey, if you don't submit to me, then I'm gonna fuck up all your shit.
But he records it first. Like, he records it into a tape cassette, and then he plays it back through.
He doesn't want to do it and, do it live and, accidentally say something wrong.
Right. He doesn't want to get bleeped out.
Attention, people of the universe. Attention, people of the...
I also feel like it's a lot to comprehend the threat that they're under. We have to be like, okay, wait, explain to me what a CVE is again and why I need to listen to you?
Well, it's also, he says it in such a grave way. He's like, attention, people of the universe. I'm about to destroy you.
And we do what?
Give me all of the nachos, and I won't kill you.
If you just, like, if somebody called your house and said that to you, you'd be like,
huh?
Why? Like, you're gonna
Spam.
do what now?
Just hang up and be like, spam.
Yeah. There's no clear message of what actually he wants you to do and why you should do it.
Well, I think some of it's just we don't see it, right? He keeps cutting away from half the message, and it's just kind of...
That's why he says, please attend carefully. Duh.
Later Masters say that too, right? That's like his catchphrase almost.
No, the Master's catchphrase is, Zowie!
Or... I think that's his catchphrase.
That's definitely it. What does the Doctor unplugging the cable do to the CVEs?
Well, the CVs have been opened.
Yes.
So entropy's good. The Master is threatening to close them back off. Basically, the Doctor is going to unplug the antenna
so that he doesn't have control over them.
Right, it won't reclose the CVEs.
I just had a thought. This is the second time the Master and the Doctor have fought around a telescope area. First time being the first Master's appearance in Terror of the Autons.
Yeah, I think that was 100% on purpose. Yeah, it feels like it's sort of mirroring their first meeting and their last meeting.
Anthony Ainley, well, it's not their last meeting.
Well, not their last meeting, but yeah.
It's the fourth Doctor's last meeting, and then we get stuck with the Master for most of Peter Davison's era. The Camp Master.
The Doctor tripped the Master with his scarf.
Yeah, they have kind of a struggle on top of the antenna, and the Doctor loses it.
That's the best way to describe it, as a kind of a struggle.
Everyone's very non-committed.
I felt this was a very tense scene.
That's because you're afraid of heights.
I am afraid of heights. The Master starts, like, turning the antenna, and the Doctor is, like, slowly sliding off, and it's like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I mean, I know it's very clearly CSO, but...
These scenes get cleaned up in the remastered editions, right? The scene where the bridge is turning is, in the original, it's just a shot of Anthony Ainley looking out the door. But I think in the remastered ones, don't they kind of make him a little bit more animated?
I don't know. I haven't seen the remastered one.
I've seen it, but honestly, I haven't paid attention to that.
What good are you?
Not much.
I don't want it to look better. I want to see it the way it originally aired. Because I want to enjoy it with all its flaws.
Yeah, well, that's how I felt about Star Wars, but we all see how that turned out.
Did you know they redid the Han shooting Greedo scene or whatever? They redid it again for Disney Plus? Good God, leave it alone! Just stop!
The story behind why that is pretty interesting, though.
Because George Lucas is an idiot, that's why.
Well, it was a George Lucas thing, though. It wasn't a Disney thing.
Right, but...
He's the one I don't trust.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
He's done it 4 times. Just stop. We don't need Bendy Neck Han. Anyway, this
Ooh,
is Doctor
you're
Who.
so mad.
It's so dumb.
It's fine. We're here at the end. The Doctor falls off. You know, this is Tom Baker's last serial. He falls off the telescope and he dies.
And depending on who you look at, he either falls very softly or like a sack of wet cement.
That's true. Tegan just goes, whoomp.
Each companion, their heads move at a different speed.
Everybody was looking at him falling, and like one of it was just like his hat fell off and was going at a different. It fell faster because of wind resistance.
He didn't have a hat. He didn't have a hat.
A scarf, maybe.
Plus, how did he get a scarf back? Because didn't he tie it as a trap? Tie it as a thing to trip up the master?
Good point. He did.
It's a boomerang scarf.
It's like the thing that your aunt gave you that you don't know what it is in the Hitchhiker's Infocom game. You get rid of it and it comes back.
Yeah, and then it saves the day.
I don't know because I couldn't get the fucking babblefish in my ear.
Oh, it's so easy. It's easy once you. No, you make sure that you get the mail, the junk mail from Arthur's house. You hang up your gown on the hook, cover the drain with a towel. You put the Ford satchel in front of the robot panel. Then you put the junk mail on top of the satchel, so when the robot in the panel hits the satchel, it makes all the junk mail fly up, and the flying robot gets that instead of the babelfish.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's very logical.
Hey, I spent hours playing that game, months maybe.
There are a couple of things I like. Before he falls off, he's dangling there on the cable.
Oh, we're back to Doctor Who. Okay, sorry.
He's dangling from the cable, and then we get flashbacks of like all of the monsters he's fought, and they're all going, Doctor,
Doctor, Doctor, Doctor,
Doctor, Doctor, Doctor, Doctor, Doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah, we got a master. I mean, kind of redundant. A Dalek, the captain from Pirate Planet. What is it? The Cyber Leader. Davros, a Sontaran, and a Zygon, and the Black Guardian.
I forgot how much the Zygons look like Who's from Whoville.
Facially, they do, yes.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
Then Tegan and Nyssa and Adric run up and go, Doctor, 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 and then we cut to flashbacks of all the previous companions saying Doctor.
Sarah Jane, Harry, the Brigadier, K9, Leela, Romana, Adric.
And then he says, it's the end, but the moment has been prepared for. And then the Watcher shows up and merges with him, and we have some very badly dubbed in, it was him the whole time!
He was the Doctor all the time.
There's this thing about the Watcher, too, that, like, no one knows what his deal is. He's just there, right? And at some point, Adric just goes, it was him, the Watcher. And I was like, oh, did you just decide that was his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's been watching us all, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's all he does.
He's just a watcher. Kind of creepy.
Hi, I'm the Watcher, Fred Watcher. How you doing? I'm from the Massachusetts Watchers. You might remember us. Really good for just hanging out on the side and just kind of watch.
Does this ever get, ever go into more detail about this, or is it just...
That just
I assume they do an expanded shit, but...
In terms of the series, they don't go into it a ton. I think they go into it a little bit in some of the audios and the novels and things. But this is like... you guys have already seen one in Planet of the Spiders. You have Campo and Joji. It's a similar situation.
Yeah, it's kind of a projection of the Doctor. It's kind of like a halfway point between.
Later, you'll see in a few seasons, several seasons, you'll see the Trial of a Time Lord. You have the Valeyard, which is another one similar to that, except I think there's a quote I think it's a Big Finish audio where it's... something like the Valeyard is the most substantial watcher there has ever been in terms of the most well-formed because he's an actual individual. But like I said, you've got that Campo Joji, you've got the Valeyard, you've got the Watcher. Those kinds of things show up from time to time, but I don't think the Watcher has ever been explained.
Okay, but the general idea is that he's like a projection of the Doctor.
Yeah, he's some form of the Doctor between the two regenerations, kind of.
When he's all molty.
Yeah, but Campo and Joji is probably the best thing that you guys have seen to this point to explain what it is like, just not for the Doctor.
It's very weird in that I guess regeneration hasn't ever really worked like this before for the Doctor. So for them to just do it with very little explanation, it feels very odd.
There was a series of books called About Time, and you realize that when you do that, you realize the regenerations have never been normal. Like, the way we think about regenerations didn't become a way regenerations actually happen for years and years. It wasn't until the... I can't remember if it's... The way they describe it is perfect, though, because they talk about the way that those regenerations, they actually weren't normalized. So you have the first Doctor's regeneration, which was brought on by, he did something in the TARDIS to start their regeneration. They didn't call it a regeneration. It was called a renewal. The Time Lords did it for the second Doctor. The third Doctor, it was kind of caused by being stuck in the time vortex.
And gets nudged by Choji.
Well, right. He speeds up the process. So I think, and even the next one, there's something that kind of does that. So you don't get kind of normalized regenerations until much, much later in the series. And it's not just an issue of it being caused, but yeah, the About Time series put out by Mad Norwegian Press is fantastic. I think that was in the third Doctor book. It's a nonfiction series, and that was by Lawrence Miles, who did the Faction Paradox and all that, and he kind of analyzed the whole thing. It's quite good, though.
Lawrence Miles.
I've been reading a Doctor Who blog that references About Time a lot, so I've been wanting to check it out. The blog I've been following is TARDIS Eruditorium, which is really good.
Yeah, that's supposed to be quite good. I've not looked at it a ton, but I know about it. My co-host for The Oncoming Storm is an editor for Mad Norwegian Press, and I think he worked on those books. But yeah, they are quite good. They are really, really well worth it for just the kind of side notes and side steps that they'll take you on. But that's the kind of stuff I love. I love the useless information about Doctor Who.
Useful, because you were able to use it in this podcast.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, come on now.
Then Peter Davison sits up.
Yeah.
And the show goes off the air for a year, which never, ever happens again.
But that's it. That's the end of Logopolis.
That's the end of 4.
Ooh.
7 years.
It took us like 2, but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back for final thoughts.
Hey all, this is Drew Leiter from the Earth Station DCU podcast, and I'm here to tell you that Cletus and I are back. Yes, we got one of the shuttlecrafts working that got marooned on a planet called Mogo. No, not the Green Lantern planet, but that's a story for another time. We're here to tell you we're back. We're back to talk about DC news, we're here to talk about comics, and of course we're here to talk about DC television shows. We're very excited about talking Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover coming up. So make sure you tune in to listen to us. We're right here on the ESO Network.
And we're back. Tony, do you know what time it is?
It is 8:45 p.m.
Do you know what time it is? Do you know what we do at this time in the podcast?
This bit.
Yes, and then what do we do after this bit?
Oh, we do final thoughts.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Final thoughts.
So I love this story. This is one of those stories that when I kind of rediscovered it, well, when I was in high school, I got it on VHS, which was a long time ago, and I got it, and I would watch the story over and over and over and over and over. I don't know why, but it was one of those, if you remember VHS players, you would watch it, and when it went off, if you just let it play, it would get to the end of the tape, and it would rewind, and then it would just start playing again, depending on your VCR. So I just left this tape in my VCR for days. I would just go to sleep to this. A lot of my fiction derives from my magic system, and some of my fiction comes from the idea of the Logopians and Logopolis and those kinds of things. So I have this strange place in my heart for this story. Is it incredibly good? No. I think it has some problems, but for me, it's a nostalgic piece that I absolutely adore this story. And I honestly can't even tell you why. If you were to say, why do you love the story so much? It's not like the reason I love Horns of Nimon so much. I love Horns of Nimon because it's the campiest thing ever put out. This story is just, it's quaint. It's very low key, which is really weird for the fourth Doctor to go out on this kind of low key, with the highest ratings of the entire series ever was in this era, and then to just let him go off. How do we want to kill off the Doctor to have him regenerate? I don't know. Push him off a satellite dish. That sounds like a good idea. There's nothing heroic, really. There was nothing. I guess he was saving the universe, but it was just, he kind of went out with a whimper, which was unfortunate. But there's something really fun about this story, and I have issues with Tegan. I have issues with maybe even Nyssa to some extent in terms of them being in the story. But I always come back to it. This is the story that I always come back to. I always watch again. I always put on. And it's just energizing when I watch it. There's something very creative about it, something very exciting about it. And so that's my final thoughts. I love the story, and I will always love the story with all of its warts and all. Again, it is no Horns of Nimon. It is not nearly as fun as that. But I love it. It's just there's just something super fun about it. Introduction of kind of a new master, the introduction of a new doctor in that last 10 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever, and it's fun. Those are my thoughts.
I like this serial a lot. I definitely think there are some flaws with it, for sure. I think it was a bad idea to introduce a new companion, specifically because they don't
have the time.
Yeah, you don't have the time. They don't really give her much to do, so it's hard for that character to solidify as a character. As much as I feel like this is maybe not the best send-off for Tom Baker in the way he played the Doctor, because he's so full of energy and life, and this is very low-key, I do think it has a great tone. The whole serial feels like a final serial. Maybe not the best one for Tom Baker specifically, but it feels good just for like a final serial of a Doctor. Maybe not this one specifically, but in general, I think it works. I like a lot of the ideas in it. I like the like weird computational chanting thing, and I like TARDISes inside of TARDISes and all of that fun stuff. I mean, it is a little bit of going out with a whimper, but I thought it felt epic enough. Like, I like the little flashbacks of the Doctor, and all that stuff. And just the whole thing has this, like, feel of things are ending. And I think that aspect of it works. But that being said, I am excited, as I've loved Tom Baker, but I have been getting I'm so used to Doctor Who being a show about change and changing, and we've been in this same kind of format really for 7 years, so I'm excited to jump into a new Doctor.
The show has fallen out of love with itself.
I think it's fallen out of love with Tom Baker.
Well, for sure, yes.
Well, I mean, I think Tom Baker really pushed himself out. I mean, at this point, he was bigger than life, and he was like, my next companion should be a cabbage that's on my shoulder and talks. I mean, he would say things like that, and he would say the next version of the Doctor should be a portly, overweight woman. Just strange things like that, which I have no problem if that's who the next Doctor is, but it would just kind of come out of nowhere. He would just kind of make this stuff up. So, and they couldn't control him on the set. He was completely uncontrollable. He was like, no, I run this show. And that's why eventually they had the producer ended up leaving, and they brought John Nathan Turner in to control Tom Baker, essentially.
It does bum me out, though, that this is how we're going out. Like, this is how he went out. Like, I wish he'd maybe left the show a little earlier, more at his peak, than on the sort of like, we're forcing this guy out because he's getting to be too much. It's kind of a bummer that he goes out on such a kind of, he wasn't enjoying the show, no one was enjoying him being on the show.
He kept trying to marry the companions.
So I'm excited that we're about to go into a new era when I hope some things at least smooth out a little bit. We'll see. Brian, what are your final thoughts?
It's all right. Oh, you want more. I'm sorry. I think this story suffers from trying to do too much. I mean, you have a new master, you have a new companion, you basically have two new companions with Nyssa. I think that this story works better had it just been Adric and the Doctor, kind of talking about what Ash was talking about earlier, about having a Doctor and Adric only story. I think that probably would have worked better, and then maybe have a new master in there. But I think as far as what they're trying to do, the scope of it, of, discussing entropy and coming in with, the charge vacuum and voidment and all that, I think it just is just too much for one story, and it kind of mars it in a way. For me, the story is really kind of slow and plotting in parts that it could really use some tightening up, but overall, I kind of in agreement with everybody that it is kind of a wimpy way for the Doctor to go out, is, falling from a telescope. So basically, I guess I kind of agree with what everybody else is saying about it, being not Tom Baker's best bow out in the world, that this is something that could have been handled probably a little bit better, probably give him a more noble going out, but hey, at least he didn't hit his head on the console like Colin Baker.
That wasn't even Colin Baker, that was McCoy in a wig.
Yeah. Although Big Finish has changed.
Yeah, Big Finish fixed that.
I do think, like, this story is unconcerned with being a good send-off for Tom Baker. And I feel like part of the reason why is because it feels like he should have left a long time ago. When he leaves and the companions who are there are all brand new, it's hard to kind of be like, oh, this is the Doctor who we've all known. Me, 5 minutes, you, I think, like a week. Adric's been here like a month, maybe. So, his oldest and dearest friend.
Let's set up a new series with the old Doctor.
He seems in this serial stale. Like he should have been gone already.
The entropy has already taken over.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was, and the behind the scenes, like I've already said, is he was not happy at this point. He was ready to be gone, but these are his words. He was afraid to leave. He was like, what else do I have? I've done this for 7 years. I mean, him as an actor, he's been very vocal about this. You're right, I should have left. I should have left a year before or 2 years before. But as an actor, he got very comfortable. I mean, he was very wealthy in this time because Doctor Who was a huge deal. And also, along those same lines, is unfortunately, back then, there wasn't a culture of making an event, doing TV events in this way. The way we think of a regeneration is an event. Now, back then it was just another episode to end the season, or sometimes it didn't even end the season. Sometimes it was mid-season. It was just another episode, and the next episode would have a new actor. Unfortunately, they didn't think in those terms back then.
Yeah, I really think we have TV shows like Dallas back then that, came up with cliffhangers and made TV series more like event, and then you eventually see that kind of going over into, British television.
Well, and you can definitely get to a point where it's overdone. I mean, if you look at Ten's last episode, that episode is only about it being Ten's last episode and very little else. To the point where, like, it's awkward.
He didn't want to go, though.
He didn't. He didn't want to go. I have such like a love-hate relationship with that.
And somewhere the Fourth Doctor is still around as the great curator.
Yeah, and it sucks to kind of be like, yeah, this is like a weird, low-key one for him to go out on, and, it feels like he should have already gone out, because this era of Doctor Who stands out as, like, quintessential classic Who for a reason. There is so much good stuff here. There is so much good stuff that came out of this era of the show. But change is good.
I agree.
So, before we go, is there anything you guys would like to plug?
Well, we're going to be dusting off Harry Sullivan as an imbecile shortly here and recording a new episode in the coming weeks. So, we're going to be talking about the Dalek Chronicles comic strip. So, be on the lookout for that.
Ooh, one of my favorites. That is fantastic.
I'll be covering it soon in bonus episodes, too. So.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. I love those.
What's the socials for Harry Sullivan and such? Where can they find it?
You can find us at ImbecilePod on Twitter and imbecilepod@gmail.com if you would be interested in emailing us. God knows why.
Ashley?
I don't have a ton. I do know I have some new art in Alan Seiler's new book that's coming out. Well, a re-release of his old book that I also did the art for, called Doctor Who's Greatest Hits by Cosmic Press, which is his publishing company. So that's coming out, and I think that's like kind of one of those any day kind of things. I've honestly not been following it as well as I should have to have stuff in it, but I know he's got the proofs and everything's good to go, and it should be out at any time. So honestly, I'm until like next September, I'm not doing anything. We've got my toy show that I do locally here, but yeah, no, nothing crazy beyond a few new art pieces in Doctor Who's Greatest Hits.
Cool. Tony, anything you want to plug?
Please watch The Unseen World. Find it on the Heartland Network on your Roku. We have a Heartland channel, and you can watch it on demand there. We're working on getting all of our stuff streaming, not just through Roku, but we're launching our own streaming platform, Heartland and Retro and our other channels. Keep an eye out for that. We are See Unseen World everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, the other ones.
And hopefully I'll be having a show on there soon as well called House and Son of the Dragon, which is a wraparound show, Dracula hosting movies. Also, I want to say thanks again to everyone who backed the Road Trippy Kickstarter. You guys are awesome. Hopefully the books will be coming your way soon.
I've seen stickers. They look great.
murder zebras, all sorts of cool stuff. And we'll be putting up the ebook at some point eventually for purchasing if you did not get a chance to back the Kickstarter. If you like this episode of the podcast, you can check out more on Watch-A-Rassilon.com. And be sure to rate and comment on our iTunes. It does iTunes magic.
The more you rate and do things on iTunes, the more iTunes will show us to other people.
And if you'd like to help us out even more, you can go to watcherassilon.com/support. And there you'll find a link to our Patreon page, which you can get to just by going to patreon.com/watchathon. And there you can donate a monthly amount to get all kinds of rewards, like day early episodes, uncut video of the podcast records, bonus episodes, access to our Discord server, and live streams where we watch the episodes with you guys. Also on our support page is a link to our Amazon wish list where you can sponsor an episode of the podcast by purchasing the corresponding serial on DVD for us. We'll mention you on the podcast and put your name on our Friends of Rassilon page. Speaking of, special thanks again to Steve Conway, actual C Radio pirate, for sponsoring this episode.
Thanks, Steve.
You're wonderful.
You can check him out on 8radio.com. And I also want to give a special shout out to Vince and EL for providing us with our theme song.
Thanks, Vince.
You can check them out on swinglish.nu. And tune in next time when we take a look back at the Fourth Doctor and tell you which episodes are the best, and which companions are the best, and which companions suck. Until then, keep calm and wrestle on.
Goodbye, and I love you in a platonic parasocial way.
We'll see you soon.
And I just want to be friends.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.